topic which is close to my heart, and I guess the hearts of many listeners in Luton. You've heard you must have heard of Sister Amani, who had a really bright future ahead of her, but tragically she contracted a brain tumor, and she's been in and out of hospitals for the last 6 months or a year. We have her father, Khurram Liaqat, with us. Khurram Liaqat used to be part of the Radio Ramadan Inspire FM team some years ago, and he's been coping with, I guess, this really tragic news for the last 6 months to a year or so. So can I welcome Khurram? Assalamu alaikum, Khurram.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. How are you? You keeping well?
Yeah, I do have Amani with me, so she'll probably contribute a little bit. Sometimes it's nice to hear from her. I mean, this is probably her first attempt at, speaking publicly about her condition. So quite a brave step.
Yeah, welcome Amani, welcome to the show, and I'm really pleased that you've been able to make it to talk to us today. Walaikum salam. Right, we also have Hugh Adams. He's an expert in I guess cancerous diseases. Yes, we'll also be speaking to him about what's I guess the impact of these types of illnesses and what can be done. So if I can ask Khurram first of all, just to give us a quick update on where we are. I know when we spoke last time, you were campaigning to raise some funds for some, I guess, cutting edge treatment, genetic treatment. So how has that fared? Has that gone down?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether your viewers will all know. I mean, it might be an idea for just for a first minute or so, just give a little bit of history. Is that okay?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no
Somebody
problem.
listening here for the first time. So Amani's my eldest. On her 22nd birthday on the 29th of April last year, 2020, she had a seizure. So until then, she'd not really had any real signs other than mild headaches that she was ill. It was in the lockdown, so we weren't allowed inside the hospital. She was taken, she had another seizure in the ambulance and was taken for a CT or an MRI scan, where they spotted some sort of unusual tumor growth. We then received a telephone call and called in, where we were told that it appeared to be a cancerous brain tumor. And from there, she was transferred to Central London Hospital in Queen Square, where she stayed for 12 days. They did a biopsy and they confirmed that she had a glioblastoma multiforme, a grade 4, which is probably the most aggressive type of brain tumor. They said that because of where it was, near the brainstem, it was inoperable and incurable. And they gave a prognosis, really, of around 12 to 18 months. And then from there, they just referred us to the standard of care, which is offered to everyone, which is radiotherapy and chemotherapy. She completed that in July, but unfortunately her tumor had grown by about 94%, so clearly hadn't worked. The purpose of that sort of treatment really is to buy more time, not really to cure the cancer. And from there, we did a GoFundMe page, as you know, which raised over £100,000 in 24 hours.
Wow.
To enable us to buy a phase 2 trial drug called ONC201 from Germany. So Amani's been on that for about 5 months now. And in her most recent scan, which was last week, it had shown about 8% reduction in size.
Wow.
They don't class that as regression of the tumor. It's not big enough. If it's 30% or more, then they'd class it as shrinkage. But it's a start, because normally with these sort of tumors, they tend to continue growing. That's what an aggressive tumor is. Amani unfortunately had a slight relapse. Last week, she ended up back in hospital because she'd had a seizure. She spent 7 days in hospital and was released on just yesterday, on the 3rd of February. Yeah. And she had 2 or 3 seizures. What they've put it down to really is they felt that she'd contracted some sort of infection, not COVID, which, brought on these seizures. So we've had a difficult week, really, for Amani and for us. It's kind of gone backwards a bit, but we're working our way forward. And like I said, Amani's bravely agreed to take part and give you a bit of background about the impact of her illness on her. I mean, when you're ready, I'll obviously let her have a brief say.
Yeah, I'm more than happy, to be honest, whenever you're ready to, whenever Amani's ready to say.
I think the biggest impact is probably that, like Dad mentioned, I was alhamdulillah very healthy beforehand, hadn't taken really any trips to the doctors. I just graduated from the University of Leicester and had a first-class law degree. And I'd started my master's in social work because I decided that I didn't really want to go into the legal field anymore. And then I also had a wedding in the pipeline, and the family decided that they no longer wanted to go ahead with it once I fell ill. So
Wow.
within the blink of an eye, pretty much my whole life was turned upside down.
Oh, wow.
I went from being the big sister to now being the one that everyone needed to look after, and I'm still kind of, dealing with that. It's uncomfortable for me always having everyone do everything for me. I was very used to being independent. I moved away from home when I went to uni as well. So just pretty much everything you can imagine was taken away overnight because we didn't have any warning that this was going to happen. But I kind of guess what life is like.
Sure. So you've had tremendous amount of support. I mean, you've had lots of people. Obviously, the fundraiser is one aspect, over £100,000 in 24 hours. But there's lots of people who are, commenting on all sorts of social media and looking out for you. I mean, has that sort of helped in any way?
Yeah, definitely. There's been a lot of blessings that have come out of this, traumatic situation. Like you said, people can be so cruel, but so many people, strangers, have been so kind and made so many donations. And just, the blessing of having my family and having a home that I can be in when I am out of hospital, the support of the family, the community. It's just been, I can't believe it. I really can't believe it. And I don't think, like I said, someone, my age, you don't really ever step back and kind of think that you will fall ill or that life will ever end, really. You just kind of, carry on. And I think
I have to admit, I've been sort of following your story, and I think you've shown tremendous courage, to be honest. And the fact that you are here talking on the radio about your experiences, etc., is really, really. I find that inspirational, to be honest. Really inspirational.
yeah,
If I can, sorry, go ahead.
I don't see it like that because I think it's one of those things where until you're in that situation, you would just, as much as I hate to admit it, maybe if I had seen someone else's story, I would have just, scrolled past or not, now I'm in this situation. You have no choice but to step up and try and help. That's what I want to do. There's too many other families that are suffering and they're in worse positions than me. Just today, someone that we came into contact with that had the same condition as me, he had his janaza funeral, was only 22,
21.
21.
2020 just turned 22, hadn't he?
Just turned 22. And he wasn't able to take the trial medication because for his mutation, that's not an option. So there are people that have it and families that have it even worse than me. So if there is anything I can do, that gives me some strength to hopefully be able to make a difference.
Alhamdulillah. If I can bring Hugh in. Hugh, I guess this kind of tumor, this kind of illness, is that common? What's in your research, have you found lots of cases like that? And then, how I guess has the treatment that's been provided, is that the sort of typical sort of treatment that's on offer?
Well, good evening, everyone, and hello, Amani, and thank you very much for the honour of being able to join you on this show this evening. I'm very happy to talk. I'm not, as you suggested, an expert in cancer. What I am is someone who fundraises and campaigns to make a difference for families like Amani's who are thrown into this world of being diagnosed with a brain tumour. Now, malignant brain tumours are comparatively rare, but they're no less devastating when they arrive into a family. And what we need to do, and what Amani has been talking about, is the need to access different trials, different treatments. And what we want is to see those treatments and trials being accessed into the UK. We need to understand what the barriers are, what we can do to make a difference, and you know, things like signing petitions and petitioning MPs to understand what we can do to make a difference, so that families don't need to worry so much about raising money and going abroad, but just concentrating on getting well and accessing new treatment and options and outcomes. And what we absolutely know is that we need to invest in scientific research, because that's where the answer lies. So very powerful, Amani, what you've been saying. You've been a huge advocate for the need for further research, and that's great. And you are a big part of the brain tumor research community. But we need to do more, and that's why it's so important and such an honour to be talking and sharing this with you tonight.
Yeah, and Khurram, I think you've been trying to highlight the need for research into a particular type of research and an organisation. Perhaps you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the brain tumor research. The issue is that when it comes to funding, brain tumor doesn't get parity of funding. So
Sure.
Historically, brain tumor funding has received about 1% of the budget. Yet it's the biggest killer of men and women, you know, under 4, and children under the age of 40 or 45. And for women, it's under the biggest killer of under 35. But because it's rarer, you know, where breast cancer and leukemia are more common, there's not that zeal or desire or wish to impact huge amounts of money. And really what we're looking for is that, of course, the other thing is survival rates as well, because with certain breast cancers and leukemia, if it's caught early enough, the survival rate can be about 70% after 5 years. Whereas with brain tumors, you're looking at, depending on the diagnosis, something less than 20, less than 12, depending on the aggressive nature of the tumor. And, you know, there's very little going on in the UK in the form of trials to really try and make an impact. I don't know if you remember Tessa Jowell, she passed away in 2017.
Yeah.
And she gave a moving speech in, I think, the House of Lords or House of Parliament. And the government pledged to invest 40 million into researching brain tumor. And to date, they've since 2017, so pre-COVID, they've only released 9 million of it. And it's just not enough. We need about 35 million a year to be invested in brain tumor research if we're going to get anywhere. At the moment, as we're in a very niche group, we've made contact with other families that are involved in similar situations with Amani's mutation. And we're all having to fundraise. We're all having to travel abroad for treatment, whether it's CAR T-cell treatment or unique cutting-edge treatments, to Germany, to the US. And people don't understand that when this diagnosis happens, it impacts the whole family. You know, they're devastated. The last thing we need is to be running around asking people for money. We should be able to.
Sure.
We should be at the cutting edge, really.
I guess there's two elements of that, isn't it? Right. I think there's a research fundraising for research into it, and then a fund to basically have access to latest treatment. Whether if it's not through the NHS, then you know, a fund that people can draw on. So Hugh, I mean, couple of examples of what we talked about. Amani's case and another one, right? Relatively young, right? 21 years old, very young, I would say. I guess cancer probably knows no age, but you know, when you talk about cancers, right, you know, what comes to your mind is that these things happen to people perhaps slightly older, etc. What's your experience?
I think that that's a very valid point. I think that we look at some cancers, and we look at cancer strategy in the country at the moment, and they'll look at people and say, you know, you can actually do something about this. You can look at your diet, you can look at the things that you do, you can look at the amount of exercise that you do, and you can protect yourself against some forms of cancer. And that just is not true of brain tumours, because they are indiscriminate. There are no ways you can say you could have protected, you could have done things differently, you could have avoided that diagnosis. It's an indiscriminate disease, and that's why it indiscriminately affects younger people. And to go back to the point that was made earlier about parity of funding, that is absolutely critical, because if you look at what we've done in a generation for people diagnosed with breast cancer or leukemia, we've turned the prognosis for those cancers on their head through investment in scientific research. Now, every year, pretty much in the 21st century, £35 million a year more has been invested in breast cancer research than in brain tumour research. So there's no surprise then that we haven't moved the dial for brain tumour patients, and that's got to change. And that will only come through campaigning and awareness raising, and that's what we do, that's what we're doing with Amani. And you know, I don't think we should be looking at two pots of money. We should be looking at one pot of money that's put aside for brain tumours, because it's not just the fact that they're so devastating. It's there's an impact on families. There's an impact on society as well, where people aren't achieving in the way that they could have done through the treatment that they have. So we really have got to do better here.
So what sort of uptake have you had in your campaign? Because I know you started a campaign of signatures, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's not our campaign. It's a brain tumor research campaign. They're trying to raise 100,000 signatures so the issue can be debated in Parliament. The idea was to do it before brain research. The original target was tomorrow to raise 100,000 signatures. I think at the moment it's 60,000. Right. The idea is really to get as many signatures as we can before brain cancer tumor day, I think is in March sometime, and then present it to the government for debate. But the sad reality is we've already had this pledge from the government before when Sajal passed away. It's not a guarantee that it will make a change, but the idea is all we can do is publicize it and say, look, this is not fair. It's such a big killer. It's indiscriminate. You know, it's the biggest killer of children, more than leukemia. People don't understand that, because just as you said, in relation to deaths of children, it's a bigger killer than leukemia for children. People hear about children getting leukemia all the time, but people don't realize that, you know, the brain tumor kills more children. I mean, these are young children, usually under the age of 10.
Indeed.
You know, and pretty much people with cancerous brain tumors are written off in this country. That's the reality. You know, we're fortunate in one hand that Amani's mutation, which is, I think, is a H3K27 mutation. There's this new phase 2 trial drug. It's not a cure, but it buys us more time for some of the patients, so that maybe along the line we can develop these alternate treatments like CAR T cell treatments or immunotherapies that may have a positive impact on brain tumors. But again, we're way behind Europe, and sometimes what we don't realize, we only realize it once you're in that situation, that there's nothing really on offer other than radio and chemo, which, you know, our oncologist told us really doesn't really work for brain tumors, especially aggressive brain tumors. And proof of the pudding is Amani's tumor size doubled during that time. So she went through all that pain, and people don't understand that it's,
people don't understand how traumatic the process is either. It's not easy.
Do you want to explain how radiotherapy is for brain tumor?
You have like a mask of your face, and you're pinned down to the table, and you can't move, and you just have one hole to breathe from, and you have this burning smell that used to follow me around non-stop. Like even when I came home.
It causes swelling in the brain. The treatment causes swelling, so you've got more severe headaches. And of course, you know, people talk about the heart being the soul, but the reality is your complete personality is your brain, is who you are.
I completely lost who I was. I was a complete shell of myself. I couldn't look at my family. The treatment and medication completely changed the way that I looked. I couldn't see my friends, couldn't speak to my friends, couldn't do anything. I used to be non-stop talking, laughing, smiling, and I just completely lost that. I don't think my own family recognized me, let alone me feeling like myself. And I just, like I said before, that's why I've pushed myself today, because I don't know what my future holds. I don't know whether the treatment will work for me, or what's going to happen next. But if I can make a difference whilst I still can, and help other people, then that's what I want to do. And the petition is the best way to do that, because with other, I think there was a documentary or something that my mum and some of my family members have watched, that was saying how the HIV/AIDS community, they were dying in huge numbers, and it wasn't until the word got out there and people started protesting and generating interest around it, that finally not a cure was found, but people can live all the way until they die pretty much of natural causes because of the treatment that is available now for those patients. And if that can be something that is the case for people with brain tumors, then that would be amazing.
Indeed. So, Hugh, if the government has already pledged £40 million and they've only released £9 million of it, I guess it's isn't it a political thing? Isn't it knocking on political doors? Isn't it knocking on sort of MPs and councillors and whatever to say, look, this has been pledged, I honour your pledge, rather than having a question in the Commons?
Yes, and let's be clear here, that £40 million, it was as a result of what Tessa Jowell did, but it was also the result of 5 years of campaigning that we've done with other petitions and engaging MPs and getting reports written and lobbying and all of those sorts of things. So unfortunately, it can be a slow process and people don't have the time. So we need to keep on pushing at MPs, and we need to keep on pushing at government. And a petition is a really good way. And what I would absolutely say is the people watching this now, we would have the power to get that petition to 100,000 amongst our social medias just by using our phone. If everybody who was watching it tweeted about the petition, put it on their Facebook page, put it on their pages, and then sent them on to people and said, share this with your communities, we could almost do this tonight. So the power is with us to do it. We need to keep pushing people. That 40 million, we will access that money. We're closer to accessing it than we were. It's not going fast enough. I know it's not going fast enough, but it's not through lack of trying. We will keep doing that. And just to clear things up a little bit about the petition, yes, we want 100,000 signatures to present to the PM. We want to do it in March, which is Brain Tumour Awareness Month, and at the end of Brain Tumour Awareness Month is Wear a Hat Day. So it's all based around what we're going to do at the end of March when we take this petition, which will have 100,000 signatures at that point, to Downing Street. But I'm really pleading with everybody looking at this, just take down the link, support Amani and her family and what they need to do, but also it's just following a link to braintumorresearch.org, click on the petition and help us, because we will make a difference. We will do this.
So can you just repeat that link again, right? Because I think on the radio people just tend to sort of miss it. So I am trying to sort of get it so that it plays on our, shows in our banner as well. So if we can get that, then perhaps we can have it visual on our sort of video broadcast.
Of course, it's braintumorresearch.org. braintumorresearch.org, and there will be an opportunity there to sign the petition.
Right. Okay. And I guess it's really, really important to Amani, and I guess the message from me, and I guess the message from our team really is that it's something that we really need to push, and it's only a signature really at the end of the day from an individual's point of view, but it means so much, I guess, to Amani and Khurram.
Yeah. Amani, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, we also have an Instagram page. I don't know if you can see it. It's at Fight for Amani, the number 4. That's where we give all our updates, and if we did have to do another fundraiser, where the petition link is also on the page. So if that's easier for people to access, then they can go to there as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
So,
even-
I think what we'll do is we'll put that on our Facebook as well. I've only got about 15 seconds left or so. I need to go. Thank you very much,
Oh,
Amani.
yeah.
Really good to see you. Horam, thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much.
And Hugh, thank you for your contribution today. Listeners, this is it for today.
Thank you.
Until next week, Jazakallah khair for listening. Tune in to Inspire FM for other quality programs from now until next week. But until then, Assalamu alaikum.
Islam.